I sat at the kitchen table drinking my coffee while the sun hit the window just right, warm and silent. Laura was across from me, flipping through the town paper like she actually read it. Mia sat to my right, scrolling through her phone with her earbuds halfway in. The house felt staged, like one of those bad sitcoms where everyone hits their mark but no one means it. 5 years married. Quiet mornings had become our routine, safe, controlled, easy to ignore. But safe didn't mean real. Safe was thin now. We moved like strangers who'd memorized their lines. Laura had a past. Everyone in town knew she'd been married to Todd. They said it ended ugly, lots of yelling, him getting rough when he drank. I didn't need the gossip. I saw the tightness in her shoulders when his name came up. I knew she had scars under her sleeves, and not the emotional kind people exaggerate online. She never gave details, just shut down if I pressed. We met at this depressing office holiday party in Philly. She wore this ugly Christmas sweater and still looked like the only reason to stay. I remember her laugh cutting through the mess of forced cheer and cheap wine. That's what got me. That laugh. She leaned in when I talked. Actually listened. That was the start. We dated a year. Married the next fall. Mia was 18 then. Already out of high school. I never tried to be her dad. Figured it'd backfire. I kept it respectful. Bought her a car. Paid for things she needed. Fixed stuff around the house. I showed up. Laura used to thank me. Not with words, but with the way she'd lean on my shoulder or run her fingers through my hair while I read. That had stopped months ago. These days, she barely looked up from her phone. She kept it glued to her like it held the air she breathed. Lately, when I walked in a room, her phone disappeared. Face down, out of sight. She said she was tired a lot. Always too tired. She hadn't kissed me goodnight in weeks. I'm not stupid. These things stack up. 1 or 2 things, maybe it's in your head. But I started counting. Her silence. Her mood swings. The late-night messages she'd never explain. I asked myself if I was imagining it. Maybe I was failing at something. But the doubt became a drawer full of receipts I couldn't ignore. I wanted the truth. Not guesses, not half apologies. Truth doesn't lie. So I hired a private investigator. $2,000 and a few gut punches later, I got the truth in pictures and text logs. She was seeing Todd again. Not once. Regularly. I stared at the photos until they blurred, then folded them back up. The next morning, I poured my coffee like always. She sat across from me like nothing had changed. I sipped slow. I smiled. I watched. She folded the paper like it bored her and set it straight. I'll be out for a month. Not emotional. Not dramatic. Just like she was reading the weather report. I didn't flinch. I kept my hand steady on the coffee mug and took a long sip. It burned, but I didn't blink. She cleared her throat. With Todd. I let that hang for a second, just to feel how deep it cut. Where will you sleep? In the guest room at first. At first, I asked. And then, she met my eyes like she'd rehearsed this. It won't be cheating. We talked about it. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how clean she thought she'd kept it. Like talked about it made it less of a betrayal. Like I hadn't already seen her sitting on his lap in his backyard. Half naked and smiling in a photo I paid too much for. What are you gonna do there? I asked. Clean his place? Cook dinner? Be his partner again? She didn't blink. He understands my needs. I sat up straighter. And mine don't count? That's when Mia piped up from the doorway, arms crossed like she'd been waiting for her cue. She's not yours to control. I looked at her, and something sharp snapped loose inside me. Mia wasn't some passive bystander. She'd chosen a side. Chosen it loud and clear. The smirk said more than any words she ever wasted on me. I didn't throw the mug. Didn't yell. I just stared at Laura and said, "All right then. You want your month? Fine. We'll make it official." Her brow twitched. What do you mean? A separation. 30 days. Legal. Clean. You go live however you want. I'll do the same. She blinked, confused. You're okay with that? Not okay. Just done pretending. I'll call my lawyer today. You'll get the papers this week. And what happens after 30 days? We see where we stand. But during that time, no obligations. You don't get to act single while calling yourself married. You want freedom. Take it. She hesitated. You're serious. Dead serious. Mia watched us like it was some reality show. Laura chewed her lip, probably doing mental math about what this might cost her. I didn't budge. A beat passed. Then she nodded. Okay. Send them over. I did. That afternoon. My lawyer drafted the documents fast. No support, no liabilities, no shared access to funds during the month. She'd signed before dinner. Didn't ask a single question. Mia watched her scribble the signature like it was a joke. She even muttered, finally, under her breath. I heard it. I didn't say a thing. That night I ate dinner at the kitchen counter like nothing mattered. She cleaned up without speaking. I knew I was done being the background character in their show. Later, I walked into the bedroom, grabbed my duffel, packed enough for a few nights, and left. No words. No slam of the door. Just a plan forming in my head. I got in my car and drove with the windows down, the air hitting my face like a reset. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. Text from Laura, probably trying to soften it. I didn't look. I knew where this was going. Now I just needed to make sure it ended my way. The next afternoon I sat across from my attorney in his cramped office, the kind that smelled like old carpet and burnt coffee. Laura sat beside me, quiet, staring down at the stack of papers between us. Everything's spelled out, my attorney said. 30-day separation. No financial obligations either way. Laura didn't ask a thing. She just picked up the pen, scrawled her name where the sticky tabs marked, and slid the papers back like she was signing for a package. I watched her hand. It shook once, then steadied. I didn't feel victory. Didn't feel much at all. Just a hollow sense of done. The next morning we stood in front of a judge who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. He glanced at the forms. Mrs. Weller, you've read and understood these documents? She nodded. Yes. You've consulted counsel? Yes. He flipped a few pages. Then you understand Mr. Weller is not financially responsible for you or your daughter during this 30-day period? Her voice came out small. I do. The gavel dropped. That was it. Legal. Binding. Cold. Outside the courthouse, she lit a cigarette even though she'd quit years ago. That went smoother than I thought. I just nodded. I wanted to say, of course it did, you never read a damn thing. But I didn't. I let her think she'd won something. That night, I came home to the sound of zippers and drawers slamming. She was packing like a kid excited for camp. 2 suitcases open on the bed, clothes flying. There was light in her eyes again. I hadn't seen that in months. She turned to me, smiling. Thank you for understanding. I know this looks strange, but I promise. I'll make it up to you. I didn't respond. She hugged me like we were just taking a break before a vacation. Then she went downstairs, called for Mia, and the two of them carried bags out to her old SUV. I stood by the window while they loaded the car. Mia caught my eyes through the glass. She smirked. I looked away first. When the tail lights disappeared down the street, I called my lawyer. Start the show, I said. I had a list ready. Cars, bank accounts, the savings I'd built for Mia's tuition. I wasn't reckless about it. I was precise. I signed authorizations, closed lines, and shifted everything with my name on it. Every move had a reason. Every withdrawal had a date. I made sure the joint accounts had limits, just enough left to look normal. I didn't want chaos yet. I wanted timing. While my lawyer processed transfers, I wrote an email marked confidential. It listed an instruction he didn't question. A small manila folder, delivered to our address the day they returned. Inside would be copies of the investigator's report, timestamps and screenshots, proof of what she'd done. Evidence and message all in one. I drafted a note to go with it. Short, cold. You wanted truth. Here it is. I stared at the screen for a minute, then signed it with my full name. No initials. No hiding. When I hit send, I felt something heavy slide off me. Not peace, more like clarity. She'd chosen to go back to the man who used her up once before. She wanted to test old fires. Fine. but she wasn't going to burn my money with it. I told myself this wasn't revenge. It was accountability. Choices cost something. It was time she paid her share. After I hung up, I sat there in the hotel bar, glass still sweating in my hand, and stared out the window like I was watching someone else's life. Then I got to work. I emptied the joint account that night. Every cent. I closed the cards that had both our names on them. I flagged my credit to make sure nothing could sneak through. First thing next morning, I called the dealership and had them list Mia's car for sale. I'd bought it, titled it, insured it. She never thanked me. Now she wouldn't have to. Laura's car? That went too. I had it pulled from the lot and retitled under my name. Then I sold it through a private buyer. Fast cash, no drama. It wasn't petty. It was cleanup. Clearing out the lies they drove around in. I moved what was left, retirement savings, tuition stash, that quiet fund I'd built in case we ever needed to start over, into an offshore account. My lawyer helped. No games. Just legality. Then I booked what I actually wanted. A hotel in Lisbon. The kind with stone balconies and no screaming kids. 1 week later, I locked in a resort in the Algarve. White sand, no phones. From there, a flight to the Canaries, where a friend had a beach house and owed me a favor. I paid up front. I paid like a man finally paying himself. 3 days passed in that empty house before I left. They hadn't noticed anything yet. Or maybe they had, but didn't want to believe it. The calls started. First Laura, then Mia, then both. I didn't pick up. Laura's voicemails came hot and cold. One was tears. The next was rage. Then begging. Then silence. Mia's texts were something else. Half insults, half teenage fury typed with shaking thumbs. I didn't read them all. Just let the alerts stack up like a scoreboard. I was already across the Atlantic when I got the notification. The envelope had been delivered. My lawyer sent the photo. It was her, Laura, standing in the driveway holding the manila folder like it was radioactive. Her face had crumpled into something I hadn't seen in years. Regret. Maybe confusion. Doesn't matter now. I sat at a polished bar in Lisbon and ordered a drink I couldn't pronounce. The bartender didn't ask questions. Good man. Then I called her. She picked up on the second ring and started screaming before I said hello. You lying piece of. I let her go. Just listened. Let her run out of breath. She accused, cursed, listed off the money she thought was still there. When she finally slowed down, I asked, "Did you open it?" I heard the rustle of paper. Then silence. No yelling. No defense. Just a long pause and the sound of her breathing through tears. She said nothing. I hung up. I wasn't looking for forgiveness. Just wanted her to hold it in her hands. Proof. Wait. Truth. And I wanted her to know. Every dollar they counted on was gone. Not stolen. Not hidden. Just spent. On me. The next morning, my phone started ringing before sunrise. Laura first. Then Mia. Then Laura again. I let every call slide to voicemail. They were starting to feel it. The bank alerts had gone through. Joint accounts drained. Access denied. Mia probably found out about the car when it wasn't in the driveway. Her tuition balance would have hit zero the second she logged in. The panic came in waves. Where's the money? What did you do? Are you insane? I could hear the static in their voices. Fury, disbelief. That tight panic tone when people realize they aren't in control anymore. I didn't flinch. I answered once every few days. Just enough to let them know I wasn't hiding. I spoke calm. No emotion. No yelling. That messed with them more than screaming ever could. Mia called me bawling one night. You sold my car? Yeah, I said. It was mine. I paid for it. I needed that car. My friends are gonna think I'm some loser. Maybe ask your father to buy you one, I said flat. I'm not your bank, Mia. You're a cold bastard, she shouted. You knew I needed that car for school. You didn't even look me in the eye when I handed you the keys, I said. She cursed me out and hung up. A few minutes later, Laura called. Same number. Same rage. I'll get a lawyer. I'll press charges. You're not gonna get away with this. You signed a waiver, I said. No support. No liability. You didn't read it. You can't just empty accounts and call it even. I can when I have receipts. I traveled. I spent. My lawyer documented everything. You think this is over? I think it's homework you can do on Monday. File what you want. That shut her up for a beat. The first week was noise, threats, rage, accusations about being heartless and cruel and bitter. I didn't answer half of them. By the second week, the tone changed. Quieter voicemails. More pauses between the words. Laura finally asked, "Why?" I answered, "Why not?" She didn't get it, so I spelled it out. You wanted your month. You wanted freedom. I gave it to you. I wanted something too, for once. A break. A breath. A life that didn't feel like I was just paying for everybody else's comfort while mine rotted. She didn't argue. I got another message later that night, her voice slower this time. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it." I didn't reply. I sat outside a rooftop bar in the Algarve, ocean wind on my face, and thought about how strange peace feels when you're used to chaos. I ordered another drink. Not to celebrate. Not out of spite. Just because I could. Maybe this wasn't revenge. Maybe it was just math. They made choices. So did I. For once, I didn't foot the bill for theirs. The divorce filing came quicker than I expected. My lawyer didn't blink. He just said, "Let's finish this." And we did. It got ugly right out the gate. Laura's attorney came in swinging like we were the ones who'd betrayed her. Said I knew about the trip. Said I'd approved. Tried to sell the whole thing like it was mutual. My guy didn't argue. He just opened the folder. Photos. Timestamps. Screenshots. Messages pulled from the investigator's file. Every one of them dated before the waiver. That's what did it. The judge looked through the first few pages, adjusted his glasses, and let out this long sigh like he was already tired of the show. My lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, the defendant began her relationship with Mr. Connors prior to the legal separation. The evidence is clear. It meets the definition of adultery." Laura's lawyer tried to pivot. "There's a minor in the home. There's history. Stability needs to be prioritized." I sat still. Let them toss the word minor around like I was supposed to feel something. My lawyer didn't flinch. Mr. Weller never adopted the daughter. No legal guardianship. No obligation under the law. The judge stared down at the paperwork. "Mia Connors is how old?" 23, Your Honor," my lawyer replied. The courtroom went quiet for a second. Laura wouldn't even look at me. She sat stiff, arms crossed, jaw tight like she thought attitude might win something. Then my lawyer did the thing I didn't expect. He went off script. "Mr. Weller has opted to step away from his material life. No assets, no income, no property in his name. He's chosen to release all domestic claims and seek work overseas. He has no interest in pursuing support or damages. He wants peace." The judge raised an eyebrow. "No income? No claim?" "Correct, Your Honor. He has zero interest in financial entanglements. The funds were used during the separation period, as the waiver allowed. Receipts included." He handed over the stack. Hotels, flights, confirmations. Every dollar accounted for. The judge thumbed through the documents slowly, like he was flipping through a takeout menu he didn't want. Then he looked up. "Well," he said, "I've seen worse." That was it. That was his version of a ruling. He granted the divorce. Ordered the remaining assets split per the documents. No additional support. No shared anything. Laura tried to argue again. Her lawyer leaned in, whispered something, and she went pale. They knew it was done. She'd gambled and lost. We walked out of that courtroom like strangers. She didn't say a word. Mia wasn't there. I didn't expect her to be. Outside, the sun hit my face, and for the first time in months, it didn't feel like weight, just air. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt untethered, like a balloon that had finally cut its string. The truth was, paper had done what feelings never could. It ended a mess without screaming. I paid for peace with a clean exit. And I got it. They came back exactly 31 days later. No welcome party. No shiny cars. No fake smiles. Just a quiet return that landed like bad weather. I saw them from across the gas station near the old food right. Mia was hauling a second-hand backpack that looked 2 sizes too big. Laura wore a jacket she hadn't touched in years. Her face was thinner, tired. The kind of tired you can't sleep off. She looked bruised, not in the face, but everywhere else. Shoulders slumped, eyes lowered, like the weight of her choices had finally settled. And I didn't feel guilt. I felt something colder, clearer, like flipping a switch in a dark room and seeing everything for what it was. She'd chosen this. Word got around fast. They were staying in Todd's 2-bedroom apartment above the tire shop on Jackson. No heat, barely working AC, 1 bathroom. The same apartment she swore she'd never set foot in again. Neighbors whispered, said Todd was drinking again, said the yelling came back. One woman told me Laura was at urgent care for a sprained wrist. I didn't ask for proof. I didn't need pictures this time. I didn't enjoy hearing she was hurt. I'm not built like that. Abuse isn't entertainment, but consequences. Yeah. I believe in those. She walked out and picked a man with a history. I stepped aside and let her have the full version this time. No filters, no help, no financial airbag. That was the choice she made. And Mia? She was back to walking. No more rides to her theater class. No more gas cards accidentally charged to my name. Her world shrunk to what fit in a 15-minute walk radius. She blamed me, obviously. I'd hear about it from a friend of a friend. How I abandoned them. How I ripped away everything. She rewrote the story like kids do when they can't face their own reflection. I became the villain in her version. Fine. I can live with that. Todd had to step up now. He wanted the family, right? He wanted Laura back. Wanted the daughter. The house visits. The pride. Let him buy the food. Let him cover Wi-Fi. Let him handle bills and birthdays and bad days. He wanted what I built. Let him build it from scratch. I watched from a distance, not spying, just noticing. No more nice clothes. No more weekend getaways. No more online orders arriving like magic. They were living different now. Mia walked slower. Laura looked older. Todd looked trapped. I didn't gloat. I didn't cheer. But I won't lie and say I didn't feel something settle in me. A kind of hard satisfaction. Not because they were hurting, but because, for once, they had to carry what they'd taken. I used to be the one holding it all. Quietly. Willingly. Paying and fixing and absorbing. Now it was their turn. That's not revenge. That's balance. A week after the divorce papers were stamped, I got the email. Subject line, Consulting Role Prog. It was from a firm I'd turned down years back. Back when I thought staying close to Laura and Mia meant something. I opened it without thinking much. Skimmed the details. Small team. Steady pay. 6-month contract. No strings. I stared at the screen for maybe 10 seconds, then hit reply and typed one word. Yes. Packing didn't take long. I didn't box anything. No label maker. No fragile stickers or nostalgia. Just a carry-on with clothes and a backpack with my laptop. I left the keys on the kitchen table. The house was quiet, almost apologetic. Like it knew it had been a stage for something ugly. I walked out without looking back. No goodbyes. No note. Just a locked door and the sound of gravel under my boots. On the flight, I thought about all the dumb, decent things I'd done over the years. Fixing the lawnmower when nobody asked. Keeping that tuition fund growing. Surprising Mia with the car she bragged about to her friends. Paying for things without complaint. They were good gestures, meant for a life that never felt like mine. I didn't regret doing them. I regretted doing them for people who could vanish and never check the rear view. In Prague, the air felt colder, cleaner. I walked every morning. Cheap shoes, long streets, quiet thoughts. The coffee was weak, but the quiet was strong. I set up my laptop in a flat above a bookstore, answered a few emails, paid bills, called my lawyer once or twice. There were still filings left to clean up. Laura's side tried to reopen the financials, claimed the separation wasn't valid, said I manipulated the system. My lawyer didn't even blink. You followed the law, she said. They signed. They picked this. That's their mess to sit in. That call ended fast. I met a woman at a corner cafe. Worked in the same office building. Her name was Haley. We talked about deadlines and weather and books we half finished. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't anything. But it wasn't bitter either. She had this calm way of speaking, like nothing needed to be impressive. Felt like breathing next to someone, not performing. We met twice. No pressure. No future planning. I liked that. Every morning I woke up and didn't feel like I owed anyone. Not happier. Just lighter. Like I'd been walking uphill with a pack full of someone else's dreams, and now I was finally on flat ground. There were still nights I clenched my jaw thinking about Laura holding that envelope. Nights I wanted to call and ask if she'd finally read every page. But those nights didn't last. They passed faster in a place where no one knew my history. That was the thing. I didn't want to restart with someone else. Not yet. I just wanted a life that was mine. One choice at a time. Most mornings in Prague, I walked the long way to work. Past the Vltava. Past the trams and the slow-moving crowds. No car to maintain. No one to check in with. Just a jacket, coffee, and quiet. I had time to think. Not overthink. Just think. And looking back, yeah, I should have seen it coming. You don't ignore the signs for that long and expect a clean ending. I'm not proud of what I did with the money. I won't dress it up. Could have left with less mess, sure. But I'm done lying, even to myself. I did take satisfaction in the shock. I did watch their comfort collapse and feel a twisted kind of peace. Not because I wanted them to suffer, but because, for once, I wasn't the one doing the suffering in silence. I'm a practical man. Always have been. When the facts lined up, her meeting him again, the hidden texts, the disappearing phone, I didn't spiral. I calculated. I didn't raise my voice. I raised the cost. I put my needs on the table. First time in years. I stopped being the landlord of their comfort and started being the owner of my own damn life. Was it ugly? Yeah. Was it legal? Every step. Was it human? More than anything else. People always want choices without fallout. They want to jump the fence and still expect the yard to stay green. That's not how this works. She wanted a version of life I couldn't and wouldn't give. So she made a move. I made mine. She picked risk. I picked consequence. I didn't cheer when the cycle hit her again. I didn't gloat when things got small for Mia. That wasn't the point. The point was this: if you want freedom, then carry it. Don't expect me to be the cushion when it hits the ground. Maybe I was cold. Maybe I was fair. Maybe I was both. The college money I saved, I'll give it to someone who won't spit in my face while spending it. Now I have a job. I have peace. And more than anything, I have distance. From the lies, the guilt, the way I used to stretch myself thin just so someone else could live thicker. I don't plan revenge anymore. I plan payments, savings, walks that end in places I actually want to be. A life that doesn't owe anyone an apology.